Welcome back, dear viewers, to another video in this series of my Carter Freeman's lists of the best and worst music of the 2020s so far. I've already talked about the worst songs and the worst albums, and you can find those in the description below. Don't recommend listening to them, but they're there if you want them. In this video, we're going to talk about some of the music that I loved from this decade so far, but they didn't quite make the top 100 songs or top 100 albums lists. They're honorable mentions, as one would call them. I have 10 songs and I have 10 albums, and since they're honorable mentions, I won't spend too much time talking about them, but I do want to give them a shout out because they are really, really good songs and albums that I think you should check out. So we'll start with the songs. I have them organized by year, so we'll start in 2020, and the first one I want to mention is The Flaming Lips and the pinnacle of their album American Head. The title of the song is Mother, Please Don't Be Sad. It's a moment in the story where Wayne Coyne's character has passed away. He's speaking to his mother from the afterlife, and the way that the guitars, the synths, the drums all sound make it sound like he's coming from another dimension. It's incredibly soulful. Wayne Coyne is as locked in and focused as he's been in a long time, frankly. And it's the peak of one of their best albums I think the band has ever created. After that, I really did like Jay Electronica's 2020 album, and the best song on it I thought was Ghost of Soulja Slim. Sometimes it feels like you need a dictionary when you listen to Jay Electronica rap, but when it's presented in such an opulent, magnificent manner like it is on this track, it's worth flipping through the pages to understand what the hell he's talking about. He's attention grabbing. The guest bits from Jay-Z are also excellent. And the production, like I said, is just so big, so magnetic. You can't help but want to return to it over and over. Speaking of magnetic, you definitely get that from Jessie Ware on her 2020 song Spotlight. It was a first taste of what was to come on her excellent 2020 album, What's Your Pleasure? The overall vibe of the song is very luxurious, very loungy, and very mystifying. Like the way that Jessie sings, and she's an incredibly magnetic performer here, makes you want to stick around, see what happens next. And the overall rhythm and the melody are super addicting. I love everything from that album, and this was the best song from it. Next up is King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, always one of my favorites, and one of my favorites from their 2021 album, Butterfly 3000, is Interior People. As they adopted a more synth-pop heavy sound on this album, every song slowly builds up into this particular climax. The song's right in the middle of the album, and it's definitely influenced by the pandemic and being locked in, feeling like an interior person, not being able to see anybody else. But the rhythm is super catchy, the synths are super jumpy, the vocals are a little more mellowed out than some of the stuff on their other albums, but it's a really, really fun experiment, and I think that the band nails it. Also from 2021, let's give a shout out to Lucy Dacus and her song Hot and Heavy. When it comes to just pure indie rock, Lucy Dacus has as good of a voice as it gets. The way she builds up the romance on this song and the summer fling that just never turned into anything, but you can't get out of your head. It's a tale as old as time, but Lucy does a really good job of telling it, and it's one of her best solo songs I think she's ever done. Beyond that, we'll move to 2022, where you've got Harry Styles, superstar performer with music from a sushi restaurant. I think Harry is really bland on a lot of his solo releases. There's just not a lot of character, but that is not the case on this song. The horns around the chorus are so addicting. They are so much fun. They give this song such a big amount of life that a lot of his other songs just don't have. And Harry himself is a charming singer. And when you actually back yourself with a really fun instrumental like this, things finally work together for him. Next up, I want to highlight the closing track to Beyonce's 2022 album Renaissance. That would be Summer Renaissance. The whole album is one big party. That's what Beyonce wanted to do after she was locked up like the rest of us from the pandemic. But rather than let the party just slowly fade away, she ends it with its biggest highlight. The Donna Summer sample that permeates throughout the entire track is just the perfect match for the energy Beyonce brings here. It's just incredibly catchy, sexy, fun dance pop song that just goes and goes and goes, and the energy really never runs out. Moving into 2023, I do love this Hannah Diamond song, Poster Girl. Hannah Diamond's whole thing throughout her career has been being a robot, trying to feel human, trying to feel love. The progression of Hannah's music has been that of a robot learning to feel emotions, learning to feel love, and growing past its internal processor. And Poster Girl is kind of about looking at ideals, looking at those perfect things that, if you don't know a lot about it, if you're trying to understand it, you might think are great, and realizing that you don't have to be that. You don't have to be the airbrushed pop star on the poster on your wall. You are great as you are. And that's something that Hannah's character does a great job of coming to terms with and coming to accept themselves on this track. Plus, it's super catchy. This is some of the strongest production she's ever had on any of her songs to date. So yeah, I like it. Next up, I do have to shout out my guy Jeff Rosenstock with 3 Summers. That's the closing song from his 2023 album Hell Mode. When this song came out, it had been 3 summers since the pandemic hit. 3 summers since his album No Dream had really caught a lot of people's attention, mine included. And in those 3 summers, Jeff had only gotten better at making his signature brand of power pop, punk rock, power through it all kind of music. The song sees him dealing with a lot of the things that have happened to him in the last 3 years, a lot of things with the world. And again, it's not fun stuff. It's not been fun for a lot of us. But his way of scream shouting through everything is so endearing. It's so just passionate. It's hard not to get sucked into a song like this. He builds the track so well to the point where at the end of it, he's just screaming, "Stay young until you die." It's hard not to feel the same thing. And then lastly, I do love this song from The Last Dinner Party called Caesar on a TV Screen. The group's very ornate approach to chamber pop, I think, is at its finest on this song, commenting on gender dynamics, feelings of power. It's almost too polished in a way, but not quite. I do like it a lot. So those are 10 songs that just barely missed the cut of my top 100. So now let's get to the albums that just missed the cut from the top 100. And these ones I just ended up putting in random order, so let's get to them. First off, I'll mention the Erotic Probiotic 2 album by Nourished by Time from 2023. A lot of low-key singing, a lot of 90s R&B influences on this one. It's all really catchy. It's a little effervescent. It's kind of in the background, but it'll be in the foreground of your mind after you listen to it. Then from 2021, I want to mention Illuminati Hotties with Let Me Do One More. All of the promise of the incendiary vocals and the really aggressive indie rock instrumentals from some of the singles from Sarah Tidzin's earlier work, they all come together here. It's one ridiculously fun indie rock song after another. It's personal, it's political, it's pretty fun. Then also from 2021, I do have to mention Silk Sonic, the collaborative album from Bruno Mars and Anderson .Paak that is An Evening with Silk Sonic. It's pretty shameless in the way that it takes from Prince, from Morris Day and the Time, from a lot of those 70s and 80s kind of pop acts. But damn it if these two don't have a lot of fun when they're doing it. I mean, Leave the Door Open, Skate, Love's Train. You can just feel the passion that went into putting these songs together. And it's maybe not the most original thing that you'll ever hear in your life, but it is a ton of fun. They're songs I go back to all the time. I would recommend it to anybody. Following that, I did really like Faye Webster and her 2024 album, Underdressed at the Symphony. Faye's brand of slacker rock, slacker pop is as good as anybody this side of Mac DeMarco, and it reaches a zenith, I feel, on this particular album. It's smooth, it's lazy, but there's definitely no lack of effort put into the construction of the whole thing. Faye's daydreams are worth meandering through. There's no urgency to anything. And that works because it gives you time to just sift through all of the random things going on throughout her head. Plus, I never thought I would hear Faye Webster and Lil Yachty do a song together and have it sound as good as this. So there's that. Next up, I did like Soccer Mommy's 2022 album, Sometimes Forever. She really expands the scope of her sound on this record. It's not just as boilerplate, straightforward indie rock as before. There's a bit of grunge, there's a bit of dream pop, there's a bit of shoegaze, and it's all really nicely mixed together. And I feel like Sophie Allison's voice is as endearing and as commanding to listeners as it has been on any of her other music. Then also from 2022, I do love the Beach House album, Once Twice Melody. I don't think it's their best album, but it is a very impressive showcase of how good they are at what they do. They've been doing this dream pop thing for almost 20 years now, and you can just tell through the 18 songs on this record, they are in the zone. Songs like Superstar, Hurts to Love, Masquerade, it sounds like they could do this in their sleep. They are this good, they are this locked in at what they do that it's honestly something I could listen to time and time again. Never really get tired of it. Then up next from 2020, it is the collaborative album from George Clanton and Nick Hexum of 311 fame, the self-titled George Clanton and Nick Hexum. George has long been the king of modern vaporwave / vapor pop music, and the soundscapes he creates for Nick to sing on this album are fantastic, super catchy, super mellow, but still super engaging. It's an interesting pairing from the lead singer of the band that made Amber and, you know, a vaporwave artist like George Clanton could come together and make something like this, but it is really fun. It's perfect chill music. Next, I love the 2020 album from the Avalanches, that is We Will Always Love You. The Avalanches have kind of gotten away from the plunderphonic, sample-delica stuff that they got really famous on back in 2000 on Since I Left You, but they've replaced it with a really spacey brand of synth pop that still includes a lot of samples, but a lot of guests too that add a lot of color to this record. I remember when it came out towards the end of 2020, it was kind of like this final gift from the year from hell. It is a galaxy of great synth pop that I've lost myself in several times and will continue to do so. Then again, it's my guys King Gizzard and Lizard Wizard with the Butterfly 3000 album from 2021. I joked when I reviewed Infest the Rat's Nest, their 2019 metal album, that they should make a synth pop album because they seemingly were willing to do just about any genre. And I guess they must have read my review because 2 years later, we got this. But the band does it justice. The band doesn't just take things and say, oh, synthesizers are cool, we can just throw these throughout all of our songs. No, they really dive deep into some of the analog stuff they end up doing here, and they make each song its own little thing that's super catchy, super memorable, and it's super well produced too. The way that the songs flow in and out of each other is awesome. And then finally, from this last year, 2024, I'll mention Kendrick Lamar's GNX. Yes, it is his victory lap from his beef with Drake that he definitely won. Depending on how much you like Not Like Us or Meet the Grams, this might not be for you, but I think it's super fun. It's super loose, it's super easy to listen to, but Kendrick is still a super engaging rapper. He doesn't slack on the beats, he doesn't slack on his lyricism when he absolutely could have after, you know, basically murdering Drake over the summer. It's about as accessible as anything he's done to this point in his career, and I'm really interested if he'll ever get back to kind of the To Pimp a Butterfly or Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers kind of stuff, just something that's a little headier, or if he's going to become, you know, even more of a rap superstar than he's already been. I guess we'll find out in a couple weeks when he does the Super Bowl halftime show, right? So there you go. 10 songs, 10 albums. Liked them a lot. Not quite enough to make the top list, but they're still really good music. They deserve to be talked about, so that's why I talked about them. There is a link to a playlist in the description below with all 10 songs and all 10 albums in there. I also have write-ups for all of these songs and albums on my Substack. That is also located in the description down below. I would love for you to check that out. Love for you to subscribe to my Substack. I write there pretty frequently. And yeah, so that's pretty much it for this video. We're going to get to even more good stuff over the next coming days. I really do appreciate you listening, watching, you know, reading my stuff. So thank you for that. Thank you for making it all the way to the end of this video, and I will see you in the next one.